Hey folks, Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man at your Gothic services. How are you all? We're doing very, very well. Now, I've got quite a lot to talk about today. And this all hinged on something which happened yesterday. After discussing Jaws and Star Trek and lots of other things, I don't know, something inside me clicked. And I thought, Gothic. Like, we're actually in springtime at the moment. The weather's going to play a huge part in this, by the way. Springtime, and we've had gorgeous weather. Obviously, we're going to head into summer, and it'll be a long, hot, and probably very wet summer, as we always get now with global warming. And it's not the time of year to be thinking of dark shadows and autumnal leaves and the wind rustling through the boughs and all that, and scratching at the windows. And yet that's the way that my mind suddenly went. And I thought, loving it, because that's my bread and butter, horror, gothic, classic stuff. And Dracula. So I went out yesterday and I was in the pub, the Cask, and I was talking to, you know him, you love him, Super Channel contributor Steve 007 Smith. We were long distance communicating via the means of text messaging. And we were talking about Dracula. As it happened, I'd gone in there playing James Bernard's fantastic score for Hammer's 1958 Dracula with Christopher Lee. And so I was playing that because I was in the mood. And then we started communicating and he brought up Dracula. I was like, well, that's odd, isn't it? Well, there you go. So we were discussing Dracula. And we got on to discussing the new film which will be coming. And I don't mean Renfield. I don't mean that. I'll be discussing that another time. But although it does look interesting in a quirky, bizarre, off-the-wall sort of way. But no, the film, The Last Voyage of the Demeter. I'm going to come on to all of that. So we'll be discussing that a little bit. And it was great. I thought, I'm going to do a big video on that, which is this video now. But what I didn't foresee, which has happened between that conversation and now, is the hellish storm that took up last night. Now, you know me on this channel, I do discuss the storms that hit the Kilted realm with an absolutely almost supernatural frequency. The UK, long in denial, has definitely got a tornado alley, and we are in the epicenter of it. Or not the epicenter, we're at one of the cruxes of it, one of the sort of corner pieces where the winds do a massive double take and spin around and get even more violent, where we are on the Wirral. And this storm was not forecast. It doesn't have a name, but Mrs. Kilt-Man has reliably informed me that, oh no, it was forecast, that round about, it was windy yesterday, but not, just nothing. I wear a kilt. I'm acutely aware of any slight susurration in the air, any slight breeze. Oh yeah, I'm on it. But and it was slightly breezy yesterday. But this storm, well, Mrs. Kilt-Man said, oh no, it was forecast at around about 11 o'clock, this would be like 11 o'clock last night. The winds were going to really pick up and the rain was going to come in and it was going to be quite almost wintry conditions. I think the term was almost wintry conditions. This was a storm. I know a storm when I'm in one, and this was a storm. This kept me awake all night long. All night, I kid you not. Now, this is all going to tie in a very spectacularly spellbinding Gothic fashion. But what happened was the wind just picked up from it, and the forecast was apparently correct. Around about 11 o'clock, yes, you began to hear it over all the music I play in different parts of the mansion, the televisions in all other rooms of the mansion, and you know, all of a sudden it's like, wow, that's really rattling the rafters, isn't it? That's going crazy. And I went outside the back and I thought, wow. And even the dog, Roxy, the wonder dog, a husky who should love inclement weather, she followed me loyally, and then she went, nah, I'm not going out there. Turned tail, literally, and came back in. And I was out there trying to look at the stars. There were no stars. It was that kind of weird grey. Not even clouds. It was just like the air was so full of water almost like the sea spray on a storm-tossed schooner. You know, you just couldn't see the stars or the moon or anything. And I thought, wow, this is pretty wild. But I thought, oh, this will die down though, of course. So anyway, comes back in, goes to bed, can't really sleep. And then the storm gets stronger and stronger. I'm like, I love storms, and now we've got the new conservatory, I'm not worried. You know, long-standing viewers will know that, the years of trouble we had with the previous conservatory and the terrible roof all over the Kilt mansion, all been fixed. So I should be lying there thinking, all cozy. No worries. I'm not going to go and try and find the remains of my roof all over the Wirral Peninsula, the next morning. No, lovely. But no, the storm was actually pissing me off because it was that loud and it's rattling everything that wasn't bolted down. And then 4 o'clock in the morning, my phone is underneath my pillow. I can't be far away from it. For Hollywood beckons all the time. I've got to be there, ready for that call. And my phone was underneath. It's on silent, but it did vibrate. And at 4 in the morning, it vibrated. And I thought, I'm awake, I'll have a look. To be honest, on some sleepless nights, I do have discussions with people all around the world, or other insomniacs, I don't know. And so I pulled it out. It was from my daughter. My daughter's name is Lucy. Lucy is in Dracula, Lucy Westenra. And she wasn't named because of Dracula. Or was she? And my son's called Luke, and he wasn't named after Star Wars. Or was he? So, message off there. Now, at the same time, what I should have said, at the same time as this, the wind was that strong. I only knew that the phone had gone off because, it's silent, but it vibrated beneath my cheek. And that takes something to make that mound of meat wobble. And usually a pint or two of Trooper, which really does put the jowls on the face there. And but there've been a loud crash as well. But there've been plenty. I've actually heard plenty of crashes, and we've got chimney breasts all over the place, and stuff rattles down within that. So it wasn't like this big crash with anything particular. But it was, as it happens, because the message off my daughter, Lucy, who her bedroom is at the far sort of western wing of the house, and it actually overlooks the graveyard as well. I know, you people, regular viewers know we back onto a graveyard. I've done videos in that graveyard. I walk my dog in that graveyard all the time. I know everybody who's buried there because they often come to visit. I wish they wouldn't. But without an invite, bring a bottle. If you're going to come, bring a bottle at least. And it said, and I kid you not, it said, someone's trying to get in my window. Well, I don't know about you folks, but a heroic dad does the most instinctive thing possible. He wakes up the wife and says, go and see if she's all right. Go and see if she's good. She said someone's breaking in. No, I didn't do that. I was galvanised into action, and I leapt out of bed and I plucked up a weapon. No, nothing rude. And I already had hold of one weapon anyway, for security purposes. There's weapons everywhere in this house, Well, you know me anyway, the knives, the swords, and other things. So I was armed, but as I leapt into the hall, the landing outside of our bedrooms, because we've got multiple floors in this house. It is a big house, and I realised I was naked. So I had to go back into our bedroom and then go and get my dressing gown and put that on. I had a knife in one hand, and I was trying to do the belt, and I couldn't do it. And I tripped over. When you got the dressing gown and it's got that, it's nice and fairy and cozy and all that. Like, I'm not even a fan of dressing gowns. I'm a in the buff sort of guy. But anyway, I couldn't tie it, and it come loose, and I tripped over this fucking thing. This bloody long trailing snake of lovely svelte and comfortable sort of fuzziness. But I tripped over it on the fucking landing, and that could have ended very badly for me, being had by the stiletto dagger in the other hand. And I said, oh, Jesus Christ, and I bounced, leapt from one landing to another landing, then ran down that next landing down to my daughter's room and burst into her room. And that storm was still incredibly loud. It really was. I mean, I'm not sure, my heart was pounding, the blood was thumping through my temples, and rage was in my heart. And but the storm was louder than all of that. And literally, her window, there's a great big Shrek cutout which stands in front of it, facing into the bedroom. Not to, I mean, we should take the other way around. It would scare anything off. Like, and I'm expecting, after talking about vampires with Steve, that Danny Glick's going to be at the window. Let me in, let me in, with his fangs and his glowing eyes. But no, in all honesty, it was the wind that had done it. The wind had unhinged the top, at the opening bit of the window, and that had rattled loose and had banged because it was still banging. That was the thing. Now, as my daughter says, like, but how do you know that wasn't someone who was trying to get in? And I thought, well, hang on a second. That wind, which was not forecast to be as strong as this, anyone who could be outside that window in that kind of wind has to be either Spider-Man or genuinely supernatural to cling on in that tempest. Which is even more scary when you think about it, but there was nobody there. And I do feel absolutely assured that only a complete and utter maniac would try to get in to the Kilt mansion, knowing what's lying in wait for it. But no, so I had to bolt this down. But that wind was so... And I said, why didn't you shout? Why didn't you scream? She said, well, you wouldn't have heard me. And she was dead right. You would not have heard anything, any voice in that hullabaloo. You wouldn't have heard nothing whatsoever. It was so vicious. It's only just subsiding now. We had sleet and rain, and the rain that hits the windows from that angle, then in a split second, that angle, then directly at you, then upwards. That's how hellish this thing was. So, together with my suddenly sprung upon me Gothic sensibilities, and this whole thing about Dracula and storms and, you know, all this kind of dark and shadowy, you know, scariness. And I thought, isn't this weird? I had an epiphany about doing Gothic stuff, and like a slew of Gothic horror movie videos, which I'm going to do, by the way. And then Steve gets on to me about this. And one of his favourite movies is the 1958 Hammer's Dracula. And so that was weird in itself. I was playing the music from it when he gets in touch. My daughter's called Lucy. Lucy's in Dracula. And a big storm takes place. And we're talking about, this is me and Steve, talking about the new film, The Last Voyage of the Demeter. And I thought, it's written in the stars. This has been preordained. You know, and I'm not big on stuff like that, but we all like to make little connections. Oh, that's a coincidence, isn't it? I was only just thinking about so-and-so, and then the phone rang. And it was that, it was someone else, but they mentioned so-and-so. You know? But you know, all these little things that come together. Well, there's way too much here. There's something going on. There's something in the ether, in this water-filled atmosphere at the moment. Anyway, so that's that. But I did want to talk about The Last Voyage of the Demeter. Now, this film's not coming out till, I'm not even sure when it is now, but it's not till 2023. I can't remember now. I think it might be January 2023. It's actually Steve's birthday, Steve Douglas' birthday, when it's got its release date. I'm sorry, Steve, if I got that date wrong, but I know it's next year. But the film is finished filming. They've done it now, so it's going to have all this post-production and then await its release date. And the Voyage of the Demeter is by far my favourite segment of Dracula, and yet it's never been dealt with properly in a movie at all. Now, in the book, what happens is Jonathan Harker goes to Castle Dracula, gets held there with those tasty but vicious brides. And Dracula now has, he's got Carfax Abbey, and he's going to transport himself over to England. But he does it on the Russian ship, the Demeter. and he sets sail from Varna, and he's in one of several casks of experimental earth, or mould as it's called. In Bram Stoker's book they call it mould, I think, in the captain's log. So it's got a bit of mould in the hold, and so he'll be in this. That's a long voyage, by the way. I know people from the Dracula Society who've done that same voyage. They've paid a lot of money to do it. And he starts off in Varna, which is Budapest, or Budapest, however, or is it Buda, or is it Pest? I don't know. And then you set sail, and you go through, you go through Turkey. I'm not even sure what that channel's called now. And you go into the Adriatic, then you go into the Mediterranean, then you go around Gibraltar, and you come into the Atlantic, and then you pass up into the English Channel, and then into the North Sea. It's a long, and it's not, I mean, okay, you've got the Mediterranean there as well. That's a nice part of it, I suppose. But the rest of it, it's not exactly, lovely, relax on deck in the sunshine. It's not cruising sort of weather. And it certainly wasn't for the crew of the Demeter either, because in this segment of Bram Stoker's novel, which is all told, of course, via journals, letters, and transcripts and that, which, although I love the novel, love the story, I don't like that. I'm not a fan of letters and journals and the way that story is told, but he does it pretty well, and I do enjoy the story. Although, as I've said many times, it is flawed. As much as we love it, and it's a Gothic masterpiece, and so iconic and influential across all medium, I still think it's a very troubled story, because, Dracula does all this to go to England, and then it goes tits up, and has the hellish journey back to Transylvania, and with the vampire hunters in hot pursuit, and it just becomes a fucking travelogue. That's all it is. But anyway, back to the Demeter, and as I say, I know people who've done that voyage, and these are people as well that they're so highly into this that they employ other people who have all the oldie worldy arts of doing old weathered papers and writing letters in quilled pens and that sort of thing, and putting old proper stamps and the candle wax on the seal on envelopes. They do all this, so they've got maps, they've got journals, they've got diaries, all built up reproductions of what Bram Stoker spoke about. And I really admire that, being a mad cosplayer like myself, who scoured the earth trying to find knickknacks from certain characters from movies, and succeeded in many cases. But I do admire people's obsessions. It could be unhealthy in some ways, but I think it's a perfectly acceptable way to conduct your life. Following the footsteps of a fictitious vampire. Struggle to say that then. Fictitious vampire. But so yeah. Anyway, they undertake. It's a Russian ship, and they undertake this journey. Jonathan Ark is still stuck there, but Dracula's going to come to England. And as soon as they set sail, they're consumed by fog and a vicious stormy weather. And almost from day one, the crew are rattled by something strange aboard the ship. And we all know what happens. The ship turns up at Whitby during a huge storm. The captain of the ship is lashed to the wheel. He's the only person there. You can't find any other bodies at all. No other crewmen. He's lashed to the wheel. But as it arrives, witnesses do see a huge black dog, very wolf-like, leap out off the ship onto the land and up the cliff, and it's off. In the book, another dog is found, but it's always been ripped to shreds by this dog. We know it's Dracula. He's a shapeshifter. It's Dracula. And then he must run all the way down to Carfax Abbey, which is outside London, Anyway, so and they've got no idea what actually happened. And then they get the captain's journal, the ship's log, but that doesn't tell them anything. It's just by seamanship and all the mechanics of working aboard this thing and the weather. That's all it talks about. But there's also a bottle with a secret journal which the captain's got, and it's that they read, and they discover, hang on a minute, that all these things that happened, and it's done in date order, obviously. The crew's unnerved by something. They believe that someone else is on board. For a long time, they don't speak about what it is. They're just rattled. But one by one, each night, a member of the crew goes missing. One crewmate, the mate, the first mate, is really angry about all this. He's not superstitious at all. He's a very pragmatic man, and he's actually very violent with the crew and very forceful. Now, you're on watch tonight. Stop this shit now. Well, he doesn't say it because they're all Russian, these guys, you know, and but they're rattled. But the captain does think, oh, there's something in it, because you know these seafaring chaps are very superstitious. They need to be, you know, the mystery of the sea and all that. Don't mess with it. And so, but more and more people go missing. So and then one guy on watch said, like, I saw someone this night. I saw someone tall and thin, and he went behind the bulwark, and I went behind and looked, he'd gone, but you know he wasn't human. And the first mate's going berserk, not having this. I believe you. You're the one who's been killing everyone. Like, oh god. So it's all paranoia on board the ship, and the captain then like, look, no, something is happening here. So he organises a search party, and they go through the ship from top to bottom. What they don't do is they've got all these cases, these big caskets, which have got to be man-sized, because don't forget Dracula's sleeping in one of these. You know, they don't think to open one of them at this particular stage. They don't think to open it. Although that'd be the first thing you'd do. It's just stowaway on board. You're gonna prise that open. You know. Anyway, more and more people go missing. It just goes on. Weather gets worse. They get round the Straits of Gibraltar. They end up like England must be nearby. The captain's written this down, you know, but we can't see anything. We're in this fog, and then in a gap in the fog, someone sees something on the coast of England, and they know that they're there, but they're travelling up into the North Sea, so they're heading into, you know, Whitby. By now, everyone's gone, but the first mate is accused, the last surviving people, of committing murder. Can't prove it. Then there's only him and the captain left, and he's gone stark raving mad, the first mate. He's like, no, I'm going to open those boxes. Finally, they think to open the boxes. The captain's like, well, I'm not leaving the wheel, because there's no one left to do it. There's no one. It's only me. If you're going down below, I've got to steer the ship, even though I can't even see where I'm going. And got no idea where I am. So this guy goes, gets all the tools to open up these boxes, and the captain is rationale. He's like, well, hang on, they're just experimental air. They're mould, so no one's going to be bothered about them. Even if they're the things they're meant to be shipping across, like, as well as silver sand and some other bits and bobs, like, and so this guy goes below with all his tools, and he hears the hammering and he's unscrewing these crates. Then he hears an unearthly scream, and the first mate comes running up, and he's just, you know, I've seen him, I've seen it, but he won't take me. I'm a proper seaman, and he throws himself overboard. So the captain's, oh fucking hell, what am I doing now? I've got no crew, I don't know where I am, shit. So he lashes himself to the wheel, but he gets his crucifix out as well, and puts the rosary beads around his hands, which are tied to the wheel. And Dracula, who is this tall, spindly, thin man thing that's been wreaking havoc, as if he didn't know. I mean, spoilers, sorry. He does approach the captain, but crucifix stops him, and the captain goes mad and dies, and Dracula obviously goes back into the hold, and then the ship washes up on Whitby Bay, sort of crashes on the shore. A huge gathering of people like to witness this, and then this huge dog leaps off, like, and that's Dracula, of course. And only, you know, the story only comes to light when they read this hidden journal, which is wonderful, isn't it? You know, now in the book that's told really well, but in movies you've only got it in a couple of films. In the 1979 John Badham version of Dracula, there's the novelisation I got, which came out at the same time as that film, with Frank Langella as Dracula. I love that movie, I love that a lot. But it's a very, like the original Todd Browning, Bela Lugosi Dracula. He's there somewhere. There he is. It's kind of slow. It's very brooding, dark and romantic. Not a lot of action in it, but I still love it. It could be performed on stage. In fact, that version has been. But the film starts off with the arrival of the Demeter, and like that begins the story, and that's a great way of doing it, to be honest. In Bram Stoker's Dracula from Francis Ford Coppola, you're hearing the score to that right now from Wallachek Kilar. Now, which is, in fact, you're actually hearing the storm. This is the storm track now, when it's arriving. In that film, you have a montage, and Abraham Van Helsing, Anthony Hopkins, does a slight voiceover over this, and you do see some snippets of stuff happening there, and you hear bits of the journal, which Van Helsing is reading aloud for us, the audience. But we see Dracula sort of transforming inside his coffin, and we see the wolf beast, which is that, as Gary Oldman's Dracula as the wolf beast, slashing the throat of a crewman, and then we see the guy tied to the wheel, and then the big wolf dog leaping off and all that when it arrives. But it's a very condensed version. However, there is a Dracula adaptation which does detail the voyage of the Demeter, but not the way that Bram Stoker wrote it. And yes, it is that infamous Klaus Bang is his name, playing Dracula for the BBC's version from 2020, the 3-part adaptation. I covered it extensively on the channel. The first 2 episodes, the Jonathan Harker saga, I'm a poet and I don't know it, was different, but I quite enjoyed it. Second part was the Voyage of the Demeter, but it became like an Agatha Christie sort of Death on the Nile sort of thing. But I did like it, although I could really see that things were going way beyond anything Stoker had ever envisaged. And then part 3 was an absolute travesty, which I had a right royal rant about. And to this day, I will not rewatch. I think it's one of the worst things I've ever seen. And I've seen Dario Argento's Dracula 3D, which is a masterpiece compared to what they came up with for this. I'm not even going to mention the 2 guys' names who wrote it. People I'd previously admired, but no, that's it now. Never again. And it was that bad. And now we're going to get this full-length movie set entirely on the Demeter, and it's going to tell this story, hopefully adhering closely to what the captain wrote in his secret journal, because there's so much mystery and slayings and action that's going to take place there that it makes for a lot of intrigue. With the setting on board this high-masted sail ship in nothing but tempestuous storms and mysterious seas and fogs and all that, and a growing sense of paranoia and death and intrigue and suspicion. I think it really has the makings of something great. Genuinely, I do, because it's always been the thing that in Dracula the story, and in every film version, every reasonably faithful adaptation of it, you've got, what's the best thing? It's Jonathan Harker arriving at Castle Dracula, and the mystery and the splendour and the opulence and the brooding darkness and the threat and the weirdness that happens there. And that's wonderful. Transylvania, that's what you want. The next best thing is this, The Voyage of the Demeter, which is only ever hinted at in so many other versions, but it's actually told pretty well the way Stoker does it. And then you've got that BBC version. But so now to set a film around it, a lot of fans, this is what they've wanted. This is the thing that they've wanted. Now, there's a recipe for disaster here, of course. This could go spectacularly wrong. What you don't want is that because everything's born of a franchise now. It's always been created with an idea. Well, there's going to be a sequel. We'll do a sequel to this. What would be the sequel to this? We all know what happens. Dracula arrives in Whitby, goes down to Carfax Abbey, puts the bite on Lucy, meets Mina, blah, blah, all the vampire hunters gather together, chase him back to Transylvania, put the stake through his heart, chop his head off. That's what happens. Poor Quincy gets his own Bowie knife plunged into him. It's the way it is. So we know all that. So if this was to go on beyond this story, which the ending of which we already know, it's even in Nosferatu, Max Schreck version, F.W. Murnau. Although again, because that is the Dracula story, but it's told in a different way for licensing reasons. We all know the saga behind that. And it's a wonderful movie in its own right. Even Werner Herzog's remake with Klaus Kinski is a great film in its own right. And again, you have this thing of the ship being there, but it's not told in quite the same way, although Max Schreck arriving from the hold, oh my God, with all the rats, he brings the plague, you know, and it's all fantastic stuff. But to see an action-packed movie version, so I've just brought it up on Wiki, because I didn't make any notes. The Last Voyage of the Demeter is an upcoming American horror film directed by Andrei Ovradal, from a screenplay by Bragi F. Schutt, Stefan Ruzevitsky, and Zach Okanowitz. It's an American horror film. It is an adaptation of The Captain's Log, a chapter from the 1897 Bram Stoker novel Dracula. The film starts... Well, I'll come on to all this. So let's go on to the cast, which is very intriguing, to be honest, and does give away a little bit, shall we say. You've got Corey Hawkins as Clemens, a doctor who joins the Demeter. Clemens, it's an English name, British name. You've got David, oh my God, Dasmalchian as Volchek, the Demeter's first mate. Volchek? Now that's very similar to the name of the guy who composed the late great composer who did the music for Bram Stoker's Dracula, which you're listening to right now. He's Demeter's first mate, so he's the guy that's going to be, he's the real bastard if he follows that Bram Stoker story. You know, he rules the roost because he can't stand these men being paranoid and afraid. There's nothing to be afraid of. What's wrong with you? Just speak out, man. Speak out. You got Liam Cunningham, yes, the Onion Knight, from Dog Soldiers, and oh God, Harry Brown, loads of movies. You know, loads of TV, loads of movies. Brilliant, brilliant actor, love him. He's the captain of the Demeter, so you know he's going to last. He's the big star, clearly, because he's the one who's going to last to the end. He's going to be lashed to the wheel at the end. You've got Ailing Franciosi as Anna, an unwitting stowaway. Oh, right. Okay. So now you've got a girl on board who's an unwitting stowaway. Unwitting? Has Dracula brought her on board to become a concubine to maybe feast on periodically? So you can see how they've broadened it out, you know, and you can almost work out how the studio and the writers are going, oh, we can't have it all male. No, because, but, you know, all male movies can work. Look at The Thing. Okay, it was a massive failure when it first came out, but it's now recognised and regarded by fans and critics alike as an unparalleled masterpiece. But no one can afford to wait that long. You know, you want movies to make money straight away and be successful. So, God knows how that's going to transpire. But I'm not against it. Javier Botet as Dracula. Don't know him. And that's it. You've got John Brioni, Stefan Capriti, a lot of foreign names, and then you've got Woody Norman and Chris Wally, but it doesn't give their character names at all. So, right now, I'll give you the sort of the history behind this. Wiki's okay. I mean, I don't really know a lot about this movie. I did do a video on this when it first got announced, so I may have gone through some of this stuff before, but obviously things have now changed because it's been done. In 2002, Bragi F. Schutt wrote the initial screenplay for The Last Voyage of the Demeter with Robert Schwentke on board, nice play on words, on board to direct. However, the film languished in development hell for close to 2 decades, with several other directors attached to the film, including Marcus Nispel, oh yeah, right, Stefan Ruzevitsky, David Slade, and Neil Marshall. Neil Marshall, Dog Soldiers, and just said it, Game of Thrones. So he's worked with Liam Cunningham before. At one point, Newbury Pace and Ben Kingsley were set to star in the film. Newbury Pace, I love. Ben Kingsley can be great, but can be a fucking cheeseball to star in the film. And Viggo Mortensen, Aragorn, the King of Men, in talks. In October 2019, it was announced Andrei Ovradal would direct the film with Amblin Partners set to be Spielberg's own company, Amblin. In January 2021, Corey Hawkins joined the cast of the film with a screenplay by Zach Oikowitz. So it's changed hands quite a bit already. In June 2021, David Damastian, Liam Cunningham, Ailing Franciosa, Javier, but fucking most of them joined the cast. Principal photography began in June 2021 in Berlin. Filming later occurred in Malta. So I think, because Malta, you know where Malta is, I've been to Malta a few times, they would have filmed around the seas around Malta quite extent. That's where I think they'd have done it. And there's also places, huge bays, where they could have housed the ship and done sort of like just a floating set in Malta. So that's why Malta's been chosen. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't think there's anything else that's being discussed on it. No, that's it. Let's get back onto the music. So you've heard Wojciech Kilar's music for Dracula, but John Williams himself did a great score for John Badham's Dracula, and let's now get on to let's see if we can find it. Alphabetical Kilt-Man. Alphabetical, that's the idea. Oh, hang on. That's not the full one. This will be the one. Main title and storm sequence, which of course is the storm which brings the Demeter crashing onto the shore of Whitby. Whitby, by the way, is a fabulous place. If you're into Dracula, you've got to make a pilgrimage there. Whitby Abbey is just to die for. Literally. And a lot of Goths and Dracula devotees make the pilgrimage, and they go up, they climb up the cliff, and they go up the path to the Abbey. And there's loads of pubs and clubs and stuff which are all geared towards Dracula. Centenaries of Bram Stoker, the books released, of the films. It's a mecca. If you're into Dracula, it's a mecca. And yet, it's not even the main thing in the novel. It's a fair bit takes place there, but then it all shifts down to Carfax Abbey and the asylum and all that sort of stuff. And then back to Transylvania or Wallachia. But it's wonderful. In fact, I've just realised in the initial story, Bram Stoker, the first mate, the one who's really aggressive and angry, he's actually he's Romanian, and the rest of them are Russian, the rest of the crew. So there could be some kind of animosity there. I would wonder now, given, and here's me just throwing something in, which is pretty much ludicrous, I suppose, but given the world's attitude to Russia at the moment, would they change anything? It's probably too late to change it. Well, it's not too late. They've got almost a year to change it now. It's not due out until next year. So they've got quite a bit of time to change things around. But why would you? In the book, they're Russian. And this happened in 1897. So, for God's sake, they're Russians. Leave it at that, Rations have depleted somewhat. I know. You've got no idea how many of these I go through. Because you've got to weather the storms. It's actually sunny right now, but I'm not falling for that. It's probably going to come lashing down again any minute. But, yeah, so I just wanted to talk about it because I am looking forward to this. I think it sounds like a really great proposition. I love the fact that Liam Cunningham's in there. I've got no idea who's doing the score. Actually, I haven't seen anything with that. Or is there? Just 1 second. I wonder if there is someone. No. Cinematography from Roman Oysin. And no. Oh! Release date. Well, I was right, Steve. I was almost there. January 27, 2023. So we've still got quite some time to go. A lot could happen. This is the thing about movies which you're looking forward to, like The Northman, which is out very, very soon, and I'm going day one. Robert Eggers, Alexander Skarsgård, Anya Taylor-Joy, and Nicole Kidman, Bjork, and unbelievably the guy that played Dracula in that shit BBC adaptation. He's the big bad guy in it. Ethan Hawke's in it as well. Willem Dafoe's in it. I've been way looking forward to it. I love Robert Eggers' stuff. The Witch and The Lighthouse, outstanding. But we already know that the studio has interfered. It's his biggest movie. It's epic in scale. It's a bloodfest. It's absolute carnage, which is what you want from a Viking saga. But this is great brooding stuff, isn't it? Oh, full of dread and fantastic. but they know his artistic aesthetic and his quirky weirdness and his fascination with, you know, bizarre dialogue and the minutiae of madness and a lot of abstract stuff. And they yet gave him a huge amount of money to make this movie, and they want it to be mainstream. Well, you've brought in Robert Eggers to do this, and it's something he always wanted to do. So, you know, is it any surprise that at some point down the line, only recently it came to light that the studio has now interfered with The Northman, and but not too badly by all accounts, not too badly. They have, all they've done is that they've tightened the pace up a bit. They've made it so it's a more brutal, more action-packed film by taking out some of his little abstract asides, perhaps. And I mean, but I know people said, well, it's no longer his vision anymore. But it has premiered, and the reviews have been stellar, absolutely stellar. So can't wait for that. But what I'm saying is, these films like this is almost certainly going to go through a change or two, because they'll do this thing. They'll put it out to test audiences. Why do it? The people that see test screenings, who are they? They don't even know what they're seeing. A lot of the time, they haven't got a clue what they're seeing. So how do you know this audience is going to respond? You've made a film for a certain group of people, like the last Voyage of the Demeter is for fans of Dracula, first and foremost. So they're gonna, you know, they're already going in with the right positive attitude. But some Joe Blogs off the street, you know, oh, it's a free ticket. Do you want to see this movie? It's starting now. But then all you got to do, you've got to sign this disclaimer saying you can't divulge anything, but you've answered a few questions for us at the end of the film. Yeah. Okay, in you go. Sit down. Get a warm. Here's a hot dog. Enjoy that. And he's like, what the hell is this shit? You know? And he's not happy with it at all. So it's like, and you get people like that. They're going to go, garbage, didn't understand it, too slow, too fast, editing was awful, hated the actors, story was garbage. And the studios go, oh no, oh right, oh God, we made a right mistake here. Fire that director, get some other director in to reshoot some scenes, postpone it for a bit. And then the original film is completely mangled by studio interference, by stupid dickhead guys in suits, and girls in suits, and transgender in suits. You just have no idea what the property should be about, but just view it as a tool to make money. But it's got to be appeal to everybody, the mass audience. And this is where it all goes wrong and it flounders, because you want a film to be made to a particular vision, and it'll find its audience, it'll find the people that like it. You start subtracting from what a director and a writer had in mind, and then you've made a mongrel. You've just created a mongrel sort of version, which will please nobody at the end of the day. The masses go in for like what nights of the big opening weekend, but don't give a toss. The fans are the ones who go back and back and back and back again, and then buy it, they'll stream it, they'll buy it, they'll get the Blu-ray, they'll get the UHD, they'll get the extended cut, you know, and they'll be clamouring for the full director's cut because they know it's been tampered with. So it's all marketing. We all love our movies and we all enjoy, to a degree, all of this messing around to a degree. But I think we're all getting to the point now where we're just so immensely pissed off with manipulation. Just put the sodding film out. I'm not saying this film's going to go through any of that, but given the world as it is right now, with media, you know, mass marketing and brainwashing and Russia, I think there's a couple of elements there which may play a slight part in this, but I don't know. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that this is going to be great. I've got no idea about this unwitting stowaway. I mean, I said that maybe Dracula brought her on board, but I don't know that, do I? Why would anyone, unless is she fleeing from Europe because of a burgeoning Russian invasion? I'm going to get on a ship out of here. I don't know. But clearly they put a girl on board there as a bit more of an appeal. It doesn't have to be that way, but you know, I don't mind. It just depends how it plays out. In Liam Cunningham, I do trust. So the directors and I don't know any of them, so I haven't got a clue. But if you're going to follow Bram Stoker and that immensely enigmatic, mysterious and dark and exciting elements of the story, of the novel, you can't call it a chapter because it's all done in notarized form anyway, But that particular segment of the captain's mysterious secret log is amazingly well done, and it plays on your mind. Nothing else in the novel is as action-packed or as threatening and foreboding as that bit. So, and that's just done in like sort of an after, sort of like this is the diary. It's all sketchily done, but it's enough there to tantalise you, which is obviously what all the fans want to see, and see it done well. And these guys, well, we're going to have to trust them. No, it could be great. I will do more reporting on this, of course. And in the meantime, and this ever Gothic burgeoning in between time, you can expect a few more reviews and stuff to do with some old classics of a dark and brooding and Gothic nature. Yes. God, I'll be brooding about the next bottle of one of these before long, because that's not going to last too much longer, is it? Anyway, folks, I hope the weather stays clement for you, and because it certainly hasn't been here, and the next storm is probably bound to arrive before I finish this video. But yeah, so someone trying to get in? No, it was just the wind. Or was it? But then again, it depends. What's scarier? What was trying to get in, or what was waiting for it on the other side? Me in a barely wrapped dressing gown with a knife. And you know I can use blades pretty well. So I need some sleep because I've had none. Anyway, folks, I'm going to see you all laters. And you can stake a claim on that. Stake. Oh, you see, people think I write this down.